I don't think we have any visitors in the room, but thank you to staff for coming and attending these meetings. So I will turn it over to Mr. Harner.
Yes, good evening. So tonight's budget work session will cover personnel, benefits, and revenues, and I'll handle the first two items, but turn it over to Harpreet in finance for revenues, the conclusion of that. So, okay, so again on the agenda here, compensation and benefits we'll talk a little bit about for your budget consideration, and then, as I said, revenues, general fund, and enterprise funds will be after that. So regarding compensation, each year for budget consideration, we'd like to bring you a history, 5-year history of what the city's done with merit increases for employees, and also compare that to some of the other cities nearby to give you an idea. So you can see, thank you to Mayor and Council. For the last couple of years, we have given merits, and but there were some years, a few years back, where we didn't, and some other cities did. So you can see here just a comparison over the last 5 fiscal years, and of course, sort of the cumulative for an employee that theoretically started on July 1st, 2015, what their income would have grown, salary would have grown over that period of time. I should mention too that we have also recently started a compensation and benefits survey to look at, of course, our pay grades. That's not looking at individual employee performance, but instead looking at our pay grades for positions that we have as what compared to other municipalities. So we'll be bringing back the results of that to you probably early summer. So that's independent of merit, which of course is given for employee performance. Okay, and then moving on to another big portion of compensation, specifically benefits and health insurance. So this slide gives you an idea of what percent of our employees participate in different levels of our health insurance. And you can see we have about 39% take the employee only, 50% take dependent coverage of some kind, whether it's employee and spouse, employee plus children, or family. And then we do have about 11% of our benefits eligible employees that waive coverage. One nice thing is we do have a significant participation in our wellness program, and that's gone up 10% each of the last 2 years. So good to see that's increasing, because of course that improves employees' quality of life and also helps with benefits costs, both to the employee and to the city. One of the changes we made last year that you all approved was we used to historically offer 3 different levels of the HSA plan, high deductible health savings account plan. We dropped the lowest deductible one, and instead, based on employee feedback, offered a more traditional copay plan. So where you go to the doctor and just pay a $35 copay. The premiums, of course, are higher for that plan, but we do have some employees, not a huge amount, that prefer that type of plan. The city's contribution to the health plan, regardless of which level the employee picks, is about the same. So it's really just a matter of whether the employee prefers a higher deductible and lower premium, or vice versa. And you can see the cost share between the city and employees is pretty similar for the coverage. Okay, and as far as the performance of the group health fund, we're self-insured. As you may know, starting in 2014, we went to a self-insured model, and that model is good from the standpoint of while the city takes on a little more of the risk, it also can share in the rewards if we have years with lower claims. So as opposed to a traditional plan where you just pay an insurance company X amount to cover no matter what, we can have lower upfront costs, and then what we do is we use a stop-loss insurance plan to cover catastrophic loss to the city. And here you can see how the plan, or our claims, performed against the attachment point, which is kind of the limit where reinsurance or stop loss kicks in, and had a challenging cost year and came close to that point in plan year 16-17. But since then, we've been right around 76-75%. Typically, you want to see that at 85% or lower. Once it gets to 85% or higher of the reinsurance limit, they're going to raise your premiums the next year, just like any other kind of insurance. But so far for the first 3 months of this plan year, remember our plan year starts October 1st. We're projected to be right at 75%. So pretty good so far. And we do monitor those claims regularly as they come in. A couple of things regarding self-funded health insurance. So, naturally, as to be expected, we do have some large claimants that impact our costs, but we do monitor those, see what kind of care is most appropriate, not only for the employee or patient, but also in a cost-effective manner. One thing that's not unique to Roswell, but it's a trend we've seen, is the increase in pharmaceutical costs. No question there, particularly specialty pharmaceutical costs. Normally you see that as 20 to 30% of your total pharmaceutical spend. Ours is around 52%, so kind of high. Having said that, there's certain conditions, certain medical conditions where there may only be one effective medication, and typically when that's the case, supply and demand, the cost for that's high. But we do look on less serious situations, look to see if there's possible more cost-effective to the employee and the city, because of course we do have high deductible plans, so that the employee bears some of that too. But again, it's not always the case. Our city does have a good history, or our employees, I should say, of using generic medication when possible. So, but again, it's not always possible, and that's where that specialty RX claims can get kind of high. All right, and then we look at what the total gross costs are per employee. You can see, as is the case with healthcare costs, the slope of both those lines is increasing. That's healthcare markets in general. But the good news here is that for each of these years, some years we were closer than others, but we've been below the average, the blended average of what similar organizations to ours pay or costs are per employee per plan year. So happy to say that. And we did, we get this, our benefits consultant comes up with that average you see on the blue line there by looking at similar entities in our parts of the country, et cetera. So it is kind of a true apples to apples. A few more words about the wellness program. You all were very helpful with this in approving a increased employee wellness credit. So when employees do participate in the wellness program and stay participating in that plan, they do get a payroll credit toward their health premium. And you all again approved increasing that last year with the hopes that we get increased participation in the wellness program, and that in fact has happened. So we do appreciate that. It's increased 10% over the last 2 years, each of those years. The way the wellness program works is each year employees get a biometric screening. They can do that through their own healthcare provider, or we provide a group event, which will take place next month here in City Hall. And once they have that biometric screening done, they're assigned to various levels of coaching, okay, depending on whether it's a medical situation or just need to exercise more or eat less. So they're assigned that coaching, and as long as they participate in that coaching, they continue to receive that wellness credit. We do have, in the third bullet point there, a number of different offerings in the wellness program that have come about here recently. We give reimbursements for participating in races, competitions, to encourage that. Our Smart Dollar program, which is fiscal responsibility, Dave Ramsey-oriented program, functional movement screening, and then Wellness Wednesdays as well. And I'm excited to say that this spring, in the next 2 months, we'll be incorporating our wellness program with our Wellness Center clinic, and that'll do a couple things. You may know we offer an employee clinic just around the corner here. It's not open every day of the week, but open Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday during the days. And we hope to increase the hours that clinic's open, but to do that, we need to get more people in the door. And certainly come back to you all and show them a need to open the clinic more. But by incorporating the wellness coaching with the clinic, we hope to, again, drive more participation in the clinic, and it'll save us about $82,000 a year in costs, as opposed to having those two functions, the clinic and the wellness coaching, with different vendors. So we're excited to see how that turns out for us. Finally, under compensation and benefits, talk about the two different retirement plans we offer. So we've got employees under one or the other of these plans based on when they started with us. So for employees that started with us prior to March 1st, 2011, they're in our defined benefit, which you may think of as a more traditional pension plan. So about a little over 40% of our employees currently are in this plan. And that one, of course, you see the formula for how that's calculated when somebody reaches retirement age. So again, that's a defined benefit. The employee knows what they'll get. We switched, or the city switched in March 1st, 2011 to a defined contribution plan. And that's more typical, like your 401k type plan. And you can see here the city contribution to that, which is very generous. So, and the employee controls how that's invested. So that concludes my part. Can I answer any questions about that before we?
Council, any questions?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Blairman.
So I guess my one question is out of curiosity. So I appreciate you gave the comparison for the merit history of
Right.
the other cities. Do you have a comparison? Do you know where we stand compared to the others on both the DC plan and DB plan?
That we will figure out with the comp and benefit study we're doing right now. So I'll have more current information on that. Some of them still do offer a defined benefit plan. Some offer both, but I'll be able to come back shortly before specific information.
Our defined benefit plan is frozen. Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Additional questions? Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment or ask a question? I don't see public. Thank you, Mr. Harner.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. So we'll talk about revenues today. We had discussed the revenues a little bit at the last budget work session when we talked about the 5-year forecast. So today we'll just go into a little bit more detail. We'll start with the general fund revenues. And on this slide, we have 4 major categories here. The darker blue column is the FY20 revised budget. The one in the middle is the 20 estimate, and the lighter column is the 21 proposed budget. So looking at the property tax revenues, so we have used the CPI of 1.8%, to factor in, and also factored in some new growth. And this 1.8 CPI that we've used is what Fulton County will be using for their 2020 assessments. And we got this number from them, so that's what we have used as well. And you will notice that the estimate for FY 2020 for the property tax is higher than what we had budgeted. And the reason for that difference is mainly we've seen $1 million increase in the property tax revenue, and then another $1 million, a little over $1 million in the TABT, which is the title ad valorem tax. So that has come in higher than what we had expected originally. And that's largely due to the fact that the local share, the percentage share, has gone up, and also the fact that the sales for cars has been way higher this particular fiscal year. And then the second set of columns is the sales tax, and there again you will see that we had budgeted FY20 at $25.9 million, but we estimated to come in at $26.7 million based on the trend that we are seeing currently from the revenues that are coming in. And for FY 2021 proposed budget, we have grown that by 3% over our estimate for FY 2020. And then we have alcohol franchise and business taxes in the third section. So that's kind of almost the same. We estimate to come in at the $16 million that we had budgeted. And then for the proposed, we are at $16.5 million. And then also I'd like to mention that property taxes make up about 35% of our total general fund revenues. The sales tax make up about 33.5%. And then the alcohol franchise and business taxes make up about 20% of the total general fund revenues. And in the other revenues, what we have included there is the licenses and permits. That's about $2.9 million. And of that $2 million is the revenues from the building and inspection fees. And then we have the charges for service, and that category basically includes the indirect cost revenue from other funds, and then of course your telecommunication charges, rental, and other fees. And then we have the fines and forfeitures, which is also a part of that, which is at about $1.4 million. And then we have other revenues, the miscellaneous, which is about $2 million, and that includes interest revenues and payments received from Alpharetta for the use of the Rapstick Center, and also any transfers in from the Hotel Motel Fund or anywhere else. This slide is a further breakdown of the general fund revenues. So here you will see the FY 2020 revised budget was at $77.3 million. This is the total general fund revenues. And we estimate to come in at about $81 million. And the proposed budget for 21 is at $81.9 million. So the difference that you see between the revised budget and the estimate budget, again, that's about roughly around $4 million. So the main reason for that difference is, again, as I said earlier in the earlier slide, $1 million is in the real property tax, about $1 million from the TABT revenues that have come in higher than what we have budgeted, about $800,000 higher in sales tax than what we had budgeted, and then building and inspection fees is also estimated to come in at about $300,000 higher than what we have budgeted for FY 2020. On this slide here, we have, this gives you a picture of our total property tax revenues, and the columns below are our millage rate. So our millage rate, we propose to keep it constant at 4.955. And the total property tax revenue that you see on this particular slide also includes the debt service fund. So it's not just the general fund revenues, it's also the debt service fund. And again, you see that we estimate, or the proposed budget for the property tax revenues is at a little over $30 million. And this slide basically gives you a 10-year history of our millage rate. So for the last 3 years, we've kept it constant at the 4.955 mils. This slide here again gives you a detail of the sales tax revenue. So we estimate the revenues to come in at 26.7, as I had discussed on the previous slide. And the proposed revenue is at $27.5 million. And this does not include the T plus revenues. This is just the general fund portion. And here we have a detailed breakdown of the franchise, alcohol, business, and insurance taxes. So you will notice in this particular slide, so in the franchise section, so you see a slight drop between what we had budgeted and between the estimate. And that's because our telephone franchise taxes are estimated to come in about $225,000 below what we had budgeted. The rest of the revenues are expected to do well. And then we have the insurance and financial institution taxes, which we estimate to come in over what we had budgeted, and that's because the insurance premium tax came in close to $300,000 over our budgeted amount. And then alcohol and excise are doing well. We estimate them, those are tracking well and estimated to come in at what we had budgeted, even higher than that. Now, the occupation tax or the business tax, you will notice that we had budgeted that at 1.8 million for 2020, and we estimate that to come in only at 1.5 million, and we propose to budget it at 1.5 million for 2021. And the reason for that drop in the estimate and the proposed for 2021 is because we are kind of right-sizing that budget when we changed the method of calculating the business tax to base it on gross revenues. So last year we had brought it down from the initial 2.1 to the 1.8 because of, when we did an audit, we didn't anticipate the revenues to come in at the 2.1. And last year, when we budgeted for the numbers, and the numbers came in later on after we had already budgeted. So now we anticipate the revenues to come in at 1.5 because based on the audit, there were several businesses that don't exist anymore that we had on that list that have closed down or have moved. So that's why this is kind of a right sizing of the budget. So we are hoping that the 1.5 million that we are proposing to budget for 2021 would be a more accurate number for the future. And then finally, we have the other general fund revenues, and in this we have several categories. We have the licenses and permits, we have the intergovernmental, we have the charges for service, which is both internal and external. We have our fines and forfeitures, we have our investment earnings, which is basically our interest revenues. And then we have other small revenues, which we've categorized as miscellaneous. And all of these categories of revenues, as you will see, are estimated to come in over what we had budgeted. And then we have the proposed numbers, of course, for 2021. Moving on to the enterprise funds. We'll start with the Stormwater Fund here. So just to give you some basic facts about these funds. So in the Stormwater Fund, the residential customers are divided into 4 different tiers, and each tier has different rates. And the fee is based on the impervious surface area of the property. And most homes in Roswell fall within the second tier and pay about $4.05 per month. And just another basic fact is the number of customers, we are at close to 26,000 customers for this. And the revenue here has been grown on the approved rate increase of 2.5% that was approved by Mayor and Council recently, and this was discussed at the 5-year forecast that was presented. And this slide here gives you a 5-year history of the revenues in this fund. So you will notice here that the FY 2020 budget versus the FY 2021 projection is slightly lower, and that's because in our projection, we still don't have certain categories of revenues included, like for instance, the interest revenues are not in there. And also, if I'm not mistaken, the impervious surface area is reducing, so that's why our Stormwater Fund revenues are dropping. Now it is expected to drop, I guess, in the future years, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on to the Solid Waste Fund, here again, just to give you some basic facts here. So our standard service costs about $22.03 per month, and the premium service is $35.45 per month, and we have about 26,909 customers for sanitation. And here for this particular fund, our revenue has been grown at the approved rate increase of 3%. And this rate increase in all the 3 funds is valid up until fiscal year 2024. And this slide gives you a 5-year history of the revenues based on these assumptions and projections. Some facts about the water and sewer fund here. For water, the rate now currently is at $9.64 for usage that is up to 5,000 gallons. The sewer rate is at $6.70 for every 1,000 gallons used, and the service charge is at $4.20. And we have approximately 5,430 customers. And this, in this fund, the revenue has been grown at the approved rate increase of 4%. And then this chart here gives you a 5-year history of the revenues. So those were the revenues for all the major funds, general funds and the enterprise funds. And as part of our next steps in the budget process, we have a budget work session coming up on March 9th, where we will have our person from our financial institution coming to discuss the capital funding. Then we will have the partner organizations coming in to present their budget requests on March 23rd. The proposed budget will be presented to Mayor and Council on May 11th. And then we'll have a special call budget work session on May 12th from noon to 4 p.m., where each of the department directors will come and present their budget requests. We will have the millage rate hearing on May 12th as well. And then the first budget reading will be on May 26th, and the second budget reading will be on June 8th. That is the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Council, have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak? Thank you again for a wonderful presentation. And also to Mr. Harner, you all always do a great job. It's always good when we don't have questions. That means you've covered everything. So thank you all very much, and we are adjourned.